Harp on Sports, the Bar, podcast, media, audio, radio network. What do we have in store for you on this edition of the program? Kirby's call, Kirby Smart, brings up once again doing away with Florida, Georgia, Florida from Jacksonville. He wants it to be an on-campus rivalry. Home and aways. He's going to get his wish, at least for 2 years. This is going to happen within the next 4 or 5 years. Now, will it be permanent? That remains to be seen. So we're going to look into that. Also, Mario Cristobal, turnover chain gone. No mas. It's a good thing. This wasn't his thing. It was the previous regime's plan. They liked it. It was their idea. Miami's the lady, right? And Mario Cristobal married her. It's his alma mater. It's his. Think about this. If you got married, would you want any of the ex-husband stuff around? Things that he created? Hey, this is the mattress my ex-husband and I slept in. No, you want to clear that out. You want your own things. That's why when somebody moves in the Oval Office, new president, they redecorate. They want their own stuff. So good for Mario Cristobal. We'll dive into that as well. And Jimmy Garoppolo on the market. Why the Bucs should pick up the phone call. Pick up the phone, make a call. Easy to say in English for me, right? Harp on Sports, the Bar, podcast, media, audio, radio network. Follow, share, like, subscribe, all of our platforms at Harp on Sports Twitter, at Harp on Sports Instagram, Harp on Sports, the auditory route, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Also, you can grab us, Harp on Sports Facebook page, Harp on Sports, the YouTube channel. And, of course, harponsports.com, where we have up our latest article. Baseball makes a lot of mistakes. And they've made some good decisions as of late. The All-Star game is something that they're almost perfect with. It's almost perfect. It's the only sports All-Star game that resembles a real game, especially after like the 5th inning. And actually, when you look at the postseason in baseball, when the Yanks starters after the 3rd inning now, about the 4th inning, 5th inning of the All-Star game looks like a Major League Baseball postseason game the rest of the way. That all those stars, that's why it gives it the best feel. It's the one that replicates what the NBA, NHL, and Pro Bowl can do to try to capture that. You can check it out right now at harponsports.com. Well, not right now, after you watch this and listen to this, of course. Okay. Want to start off first with Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart bringing up at SEC Media Days. He wants to take Florida, Georgia out of Jacksonville, make it an Athens-Gainesville thing. Billy Napier said, I want to coach in it first there and see what it's like. There's no doubt this game benefits Florida more than Georgia. It's right down the road. It's 75 miles away for Florida. Georgia, it's 350. Neutral site in name alone. Now, I don't want this to be an Atlanta, Jacksonville thing because you already have the SEC championship game in Atlanta. They got the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and I know they've got the Gator Bowl here, but no. Kirby's going to get his wish one way or another coming up here. Look, I get it from his perspective. He's got a couple of good points when it comes to this. One, that they can't bring recruits to the game. Now, it's a neutral site game, so the NCAA doesn't let them. Look, the NCAA, you got to be flexible with this. Whoever's home game it is that year should get them. Because the SEC schedule breaks down 4-4, right? And who knows what the future is going to hold with this? Who knows what it's going to hold? I said time and time again, I'd love to see the SEC go to a nine game model with 4-4 and 1 neutral site. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see a 9-game conference model with 4-4-1. You already have it, right? In the in the West, you already have it. Who knows how this conference is going to break down now, but you're going to have multiple ones. You're going to have Texas and Oklahoma, neutral site. Arkansas, A&M, neutral site. Alabama, Auburn used to be a neutral site. Birmingham, I don't have to worry about that anymore. I'd love to see it. But under that premise, then each school could rotate who brings recruits in. That's the way it should be now. So this is one of these NCAA rules that's ridiculous. Georgia should be allowed to bring in the recruits they want when it's their home game. So should Florida. That solves that problem if you're Kirby. Does it? Either way, he's going to get his wish here in a couple years. Why? The Jaguars are going to have to undergo a major stadium renovation. They've decided not to tear down TIAA Bank. They want to remodel it. Well, I got news for you, folks. That's going to take at least 18 months. Even if you started in January, right when the year ended, can you tear out the whole entire sidelines and remodel that whole sucker in 9 months before the season begins again? And then the next year do the whole other sideline? I'm talking about the stadium, the concrete. You have to tear all that out, or a good chunk of it. They're talking like a $700 million remodel in there. This is going to be a major, major undertaking that they want to do in there. So one of two things is taking place. Either you're remodeling during the year for 3 years, constantly in the offseason, or you just bite the bullet for 18 months. You start in January of 1 year. You go through that whole year. That's 12 months. And then you've got 8 months the next year until you get to August. You get 20 straight months to fix it all, which is what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to take a whole year, wipe that out. Don't be surprised at all if you see the Jacksonville Jaguars end up playing in Gainesville for a year. 3 years from now. Don't be surprised at all if you see that. Or a really, really reduced stadium capacity. And they may play in a reduced stadium capacity. They may do that. Florida, Georgia aren't doing that. They're not going to go play in front of 40,000 fans for that game. No way. So what I think, this contract runs out of 2023. I think in 2024, the Jaguars will begin some sort of major stadium improvements. And Florida and Georgia will turn into, like, they may not begin those improvements until after the 2024 season through 2025. And then in 2026, it'll all be done. Either way, I think in 2024, you're going to see Florida, Georgia in Athens. 2025, you're going to see Florida, Georgia in Gainesville. And then in 2026, they'll come back around and explore it again. This thing is not, it's going to leave Jacksonville. To me, 2024, 2025 is going to leave for 2 years. It just is. While they fix up TIAA Bank Field Stadium, while they remodel it. They did it 30 years ago. Now, it's not going to be that quite of an undertaking and what that ended up being, but it's going to be pretty big and significant. Either way, you're reducing seating capacity for a season while you fix things up, which they're not going to be a part of. And the contract runs out after 2023. It actually times out perfectly to get this done. And if it's a new and improved stadium and a cool experience, and they remodel this thing and put a roof on it or whatever they end up doing, and they want to bring it back, and I'd love it should be in Jacksonville. But I understand it going away for a couple years. I do. To get this done, I do. But Kirby doesn't care about the traditions of this. He wants to get his recruiting in there. Greedy people want more. He's like Gordon Gekko. It's like, he's already had the number 1 and number 2 recruiting class the last 4 years. What else does he want? More. Billionaires didn't become billionaires without being big-time millionaires and wanting more. Billionaires don't become multi-billionaires without wanting more. More. It's greed. Give me more. Give me more. Crying out loud. Got billionaire people now that build their own space programs. That's how much money they have. So, I get it. I get where Kirby's coming from on this, you bet. And the NCAA can fix this. Just change the recruiting rule. There aren't too many of these left. These great neutral site games. Oklahoma, Texas has one. I wouldn't say that Arkansas A&M's one, but it's kind of neat in Houston. It is. And Army Navy. What are the big ones are left? Yeah, I know. Speaking of big ones, big change, big turnover chains. I liked the turnover chain at first, and then everybody did it, and it became gimmicky, and it was just lame. Once like Pitt was doing it, it's like, what are you doing? And Georgia's got their big spiky shoulder pads. I guess that's a little bit different. You know, it's more of the Legion of Doom WWE, but it's still a concept of an award for a defensive play. And everybody just wanted to copy, and I thought that was just lame. And apparently Mario Cristobal thinks so as well, because he's getting rid of it. Mario Cristobal says, you know what, that's enough of the turnover chain. I'm out on the turnover chain. Well, good. Good that he's out on it. Because it wasn't his. And this isn't a tradition that's been around like 30 or 40 years. It's not. It was somebody else's in the last 5 or 6 years. And it would have worked if this team won more. If this team would have been 10-2, 11-1, if this team would have done what Georgia's done, what Alabama's done, heck, even what Ohio State's done. You could have gotten away with it last 5 or 6 years. But when you're going 7-5, it just, it's a tradition or a new thing on a team that's just good. So remember, it's like, well, what's he doing? I think he gets away with it because he's a Hurricane. And he played there with the smoke, the tunnels, and the old Orange Bowl. He can come in and go, we're getting rid of that turnover chain. What do you say? How dare you, coach? You don't understand our traditions? He doesn't? He can get away with it. I'm not sure if, let's say, it were Billy Napier down in Miami, that he could get away with it as easy. But he's a former Miami Hurricane, so he can get away with it. Now, here's the thing. This team goes like 4-8, he's going to get hammered. He's going to get hammered anyway. But when the gimmick is more important than the game, our turnover chain, where is it? You'll survive without it. Somehow, some way, this team won 4 national championships without a turnover chain. Don't know how they did it, but they did it. And that's just it. You had generations, the Sean Taylor Miami Hurricanes win a national championship. That team was loaded, right? The Willis McGahee, Ken Dorsey, Fred Taylor. Oh, baby. No. Not Fred Taylor. Those Hurricanes, with Jonathan Vilma, that team, oh my God. Those teams were just nasty. No turnover chain. Jeremy Shockey, those teams were just nasty. Then what? Well, from those Frank Gore Miami teams, you go back a decade to the Craig Erickson, those stud Miami teams, the Rock, those Miami teams, Steve Michael Irvin. They didn't need anything like that. Their gimmick was their attitude. When Miami's at their best, their gimmick is their attitude. So, I get him getting rid of it. I don't fault him at all. And winning fixes all that. Seriously, winning fixes all that. I use this as an example. When you marry in like we did, he left Miami, he comes back, he marries into this family again, right? I look at old coaches as like ex-husbands. You move in, Miami's your wife. You kind of want a new bed, don't you? You don't want the old mattress in there. You want a new mattress. Turnover chain was Manny Diaz's mattress. I don't want to sleep in Manny's mattress. Get the thing out of there. I want my own. I want a new one. Makes sense. It does. It makes sense. So, good for him. And again, he gets away with it because he's a former Miami Hurricane. I thought it was cool. I liked the turnover chain. And then it became bastardized and lame. It's like, all right, well, we were the original. Everybody else is doing it. And all right, let's get away with this now. The turnover chain reminds me a little bit of Guess Jeans. I'm going to date myself now. Late 80s, early 90s. When I was in the 6th and 7th grade, you had to have them. Had to have a little triangle on the pocket. You had to have them. Had to have them. And then it became this fad where we ripped the logo off because everybody started to wear them. Then they were this unique, special thing if you had them. But once everybody had them, it didn't become special and unique anymore. Pretty much like everything, right? Earrings were a counterculture thing. Then everybody started to get them. Guys started to get them. Tattoos were a rebellious thing. Then everybody started to get them. So, there you go. Turnover chains is what happened to Guess Jeans in the early 90s. Wanted to wrap with this. I saw what happened with Jimmy Garoppolo. And it's a little bit confusing because apparently the 49ers told him he can request a trade. Great. Problem is that apparently they told him this months ago is the report that he's been able to Try to get his way out of San Francisco for a couple months now if he wants to. The problem with Jimmy Garoppolo is the $26 million price tag. Was it $26.95? What team's going to want to eat that and give you a draft pick? Like, well, maybe you'll sign an extension. I'm not giving Jimmy Garoppolo $85 million. Who's going to do this? Everybody, well, Seattle, they need a quarterback. Well, if I'm the Niners, I'm not trading him up to Seattle so he can beat me. No way. No, I'm not trading him up to Seattle. Now, what's interesting about this is Carolina could have got their hands on him, but went with Baker Mayfield instead. Interesting, right? But I look around at potential teams. The Falcons, they have Marcus Mariota. The Falcons could make some sense. But if they sign Marcus Mariota, they're not going to do this. The Texans, they got to figure out what's going on with Davis Mills. They're all in on him this year. You bring in Garoppolo, you've got Jimmy Garoppolo's kind of in no man's land here. So if I were the Bucs, I'd pick up the phone and call John Lynch. Look, we're former buddies. Think about it. Bucs should pick up the phone, call Johnny and say, look, we'll do this for you. Just to get the salaries close, we'll send Blaine Gabbert your way. He's already out here once. I know. But we got to offset some of this money. If I'm the Bucs, I trade Gabbert out there. Send Gabbert in a fifth out there. And Garoppolo comes back. But it's contingent on Jimmy Garoppolo reworking his deal. And I would tell him, look, Jimmy, this is what we're going to tell you. We got to find a way to make this work. And the only way for us to make this work is to move this money around. And this is what we're going to do. We'll pay you $5 million. We'll pay you $6 million this year, $5 million this year. But we got to take $20 million of this and move it into next year. And then really a lot of the money into the third year of this deal. So if I'm the Bucs, I'd trade for him. You bet I would to bring him in, have him work under Brady for a year, sit there for a year, learn the offense, and then Brady walks off into the sunset, and there you go. What about Kyle Trask? I'm sorry, I'm going to go with the guy that took a team to the NFC Championship game, guy took a team to a Super Bowl a couple years ago. I think Jimmy Garoppolo can still be a good quarterback in this league. And if you're the Niners, you want something, or if you're the Bucs, you need something in place when Brady retires. You see how scary that was this year? Looking at what are we going to do? They're talking about trading for Baker Mayfield, talking about doing a bunch of stuff. So if I were the Bucs, I would. I'd entertain this. I'd pick up the phone and say, look, we'll send Blaine Gabbert your way and a fifth. You send us Garoppolo, but Jimmy, you're going to have to redo your deal. Redo your deal. Make this a 3-year, $65, $70 million. You're making $26 million this year. Let's switch this. Let's make this a 3-year, $70 million deal. We'll pay you $5 this year. Next year, we'll pay we're going to have to shuffle this money around. We'll pay you $30, and then we'll pay you $35 the next. But only $8 million of that's guaranteed. Look, you can play with the numbers on this. You can get to that. You can get to that magical. If you've got $20 million to mess with, and you only pay him $5 this year, and then and you wash out that $5, then you got to figure out a way to make up that extra $16 million. You can make that up over the aggregate if you extend. The longer you extend the deal, I'm not getting into a 4 or 5 year deal with him as a backup, because if Brady decides to come back for 2 more years, you're kind of host. That's the way the Bucs can make this work. But now is Jimmy Garoppolo going to swallow his pride and come in here and be a backup? I don't know. Either way, they're going to be fools to trade him for Seattle. I don't know where you send him. You want to win? Sit for a year and then get this team. That's how I'd sell him. You're going to sit out in San Francisco. Actually, the best thing for Jimmy Garoppolo is to stay put. You're talking about seeking a trade. Go out there, go balls to the wall, see what happens. Because now he can seek a trade all he wants. I don't know where it fits. Best thing for Jimmy G is to stay put. But if I'm the Bucs, I'm entertaining this. Harp On Sports, the Bar Podcast Media Audio Radio Network. Follow, share, like, subscribe at Harp On's Twitter, at Harp On Sports Twitter, at Harp On Sports Instagram, Auditory Route, Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all 3 of those locations. Harp On Sports Facebook page, Harp On Sports the YouTube channel, and of course harponsports.com. Our latest article up there focusing on the All-Star Game in baseball. Baseball catches a lot of flack. They screw up a lot of things. One thing they don't screw up is the All-Star game. It's the best of every professional sport. I told you what the NBA is second best, NHL third best, and the Pro Bowl is. It's going to take a while. It's going to take 5 or 6 years to tweak and change the Pro Bowl to get it back to a level of where it's consumable and enjoyable. You can fix the NBA immediately. The NBA, you can make the NBA almost look like what baseball is, where it's competitive. Last 4 minutes, the NBA All-Star Game are great. How can we get more of that? Check it out, harponsports.com, as we talk about an all-star effort to rebuild the other sports. At least their classics, or their mid-season classics, with the exception of the Pro Bowl. Check it out again at harponsports.com. And remember, stay clean, stay focused, stay strong. Frankenstein. Have fun with your friends.